And you are an atheist?
I am, yeah.
And what do you think of the fact that it seems to be a movement that's gaining credibility as of late?
I think it's about fucking time.
People do seem to be coming out of the closet about that in a way they didn't before my movie came out.
Yeah, well, hopefully that had something to do with it. But I think you also.
I just think it is in general a movie. I mean, it's books, it's movies, it's just about time.
Well, you saw people who have had 8 years of basically being told nothing other than love Jesus and you'll be fine. 9/11 and Jesus, and I think they're finally starting to come out of that and realizing, wait a minute, maybe if he's wrong about this, maybe this is in fact fundamentally wrong. I think there's still a long way to go. I think it's overly optimistic to think that it's gaining popularity with any kind of speed. But
well, it was on the front page of the New York Times this week. In a number of places around the country that you might not think it would be happening. When they put up a billboard that says, atheists, please call, there was no complaints. There was just people saying, hey, I want to join.
Yeah, in 200 years, I think maybe we'll be there.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
I may have the same head on this, which is horrible, which is the first thing I know is we're all going to be dead in 40 years.
That thought goes through my head daily. Daily. I am obsessed with my own mortality. And I'm thrilled to hear that you are too.
So number one,
you have to secretly envy. I'm an atheist, not to be a dick, but just because it seems like
I'm an atheist too.
Yeah, it seems like the most likely scenario. But you got to kind of envy the people who are living in this warm pillow.
I've said it a million times. Money's not an issue with you. You have millions and millions of dollars. You would gladly pay $10 million.
Cell regeneration.
No. Forget about science. Just to believe that Jesus Christ was your personal Savior.
It's a good question.
And that when you died, you moved on to a better and happier place. And when your dog died, or your dad died, or whoever died, you would be with them. Now you can't.
I don't know that I would trade that off.
You would.
I'm not sure I would.
Well, you're using your brain.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
you trade in comfort, but if you traded that in, there's a lot of other stuff that would go with it.
No, not in this scenario. This scenario, I just need a cashier's check for $10 million.
Yeah.
You get to go on whoring and fucking and boozing and doing your debauchery that somehow eludes the FCC.
So I can keep all of my other intelligence.
All your faculties are the same, except for that if you're in an airplane and it's plummeting toward a mountain, you're just thinking to yourself, you know what? Great, I'm going to be with my grandfather.
Yeah, well, that's why religion is so powerful. Because that's a mighty tempting offer.
It is the greatest. I make fun of religious people all the time, but secretly I'm jealous. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah, it would be. It's a blessing, ironically, and a curse to be so pragmatic, because it's you do miss that cushion that a lot of people seem to have.
Well, I mean, you look at it this way, Donnie. Yes.
Why is it the man-made God that atheists have to bag on?
Well,
if you look at the universe and everything, I mean, there's got to be some kind of power or God.
Donnie's a retarded Jew, by the way.
Well, no, you called me the New Age Jew or something.
But everything about the construct of the universe is chaotic. It's all.
But did it get there by itself?
Well, listen,
I'm not into man-made Bible religion, but there has got to be some force that created all this. It's too complicated.
Okay,
but then you get into questions of linear time, and
you're arguing with a smart guy, not Ray from the Valley. Can I say this? Here's the whole thing about God, in the universe and who created this and all this kind of stuff. For me, I'm just a referee. I'm just sitting up on my stoop. I'm watching the tennis game and I'm saying, is it fair or is it foul? Is it in or is it out? And I don't approach, is there God, any different than I approach any facet of life, which is show me a little proof and I'm in.
Yes.
Show me no proof, I'm not in.
But we're surrounded by people who don't make that distinction. That if you say to them, there's a monster living in my closet, you can't see him, but you got to have faith that he's there.
Right.
People, you would say, well, that's ridiculous.
Well,
you're out of your mind. You should be locked up. But the same thing does not apply to there's a guy living on a cloud.
Right.
You know?
And my point to everyone is...
We suspend our
right.
powers of logic.
Well, we do because we're aware of our mortality, and that's what freaks us out. It's a pretty easy math equation, which is the very first time somebody saw somebody die, they went, holy shit, that boulder could have landed on me, or that saber-toothed tiger could have taken me.
Which is, it's always a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah. It's like, so a woolly mammoth could have trampled me, or worse, raped me. So the point is,
it's starting to feel like the Flintstones here.
People went, that bird was a garbage disposal, or the pig, or whatever it was. Point is somebody said, look, we better come up with something because I can't sleep at night because I'm worried about a boulder landing on me. And then, God forbid, pardon the pun, but when you have kids...
Well, right now, your daughter thinks that you're God and you know everything.
Right.
And when she gets old enough to realize that you're just as fucked up as the rest of us...
Maybe more.
That's right. She'll say, unless she thinks about it a little more, she'll say, boy, I need something to fill that hole.
Right. Oh, yeah. Uncle Seth is going to come by and explain to you about decomposition and being eaten by worms. But the point is when you have kids, then it really kicks in. Mm-hmm. Like, if something should happen to my child, that feeling of, you know what, the Lord had a plan. He wanted her or him to come with him, blah, blah, blah. We'll be reunited somewhere at some point. I can understand that that's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, because there could be nothing more devastating and there's no equal to that in terms of dealing with that as a human being. And I understand why we needed to block those out, we needed to block that out as human beings. And I wish I could buy into it, but I can't.
I think you can still have, there's the best scientists in the world will say at the end of the day on this issue, you know what, we don't fucking know. And you can still be, you can still have a sense of wonderment, and you can appreciate, you can be positive and optimistic and appreciate, the mystery of it all. There is a way, Carl Sagan was that kind of guy. He was such an upbeat guy who, on his deathbed was like, no, I still think this is it.
Right. He still did not believe in
higher
but
at the
power.
same time, he was so taken with everything and the task of finding out the real answer.
Well, and listen, I agree, and I would say to all my religious friends who insultingly asked me, what's to stop me from stabbing somebody or raping the nanny?
But religion notoriously claims that they invented morality. They didn't. Morality exists in animals. The golden rule. You have bats who, if one bat is sick, and the other one's, get some extra food for him. When he gets well and another one gets sick, there's the expectation that he's got to do the same.
I agree.
Religion canonized morality. They were the first people to write it down.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. They act like they invented it, and to me, it's built into your construct, and it falls under the no shit umbrella.
There's a million examples in nature. It's hardwired into us.
Yes, I mean, obviously you don't do horrible things to other people because it's wrong, not because some deity has told you that it's wrong. But the thing that's interesting about this, and I always bring this up, you were bound for one of those 9/11 flights that flew into the tower, and I love the fact that you don't give a shit about it. And that's exactly how I would be, which is it was just happenstance and circumstance, and you missed your flight, and the flight didn't miss one of the towers. But most people would go on a crusade about it or lecture,
it's because
kids about it.
We're, as they say, we're significance junkies. We want to attach significance to everything. This must have happened for a reason, and that's just not the case. It's not coincidences. This is Julia Sweeney's one-woman show. She beats this into the ground. Coincidences do happen. They do happen.
No, and it's the ultimate form of narcissism to say this happened to me for a reason. Mm-hmm. Because if it happened to you for a reason, what about the other 250 people that flew into the fucking tower?
Exactly.
Did it happen to them for a reason?
Exactly.
Were they bad people?
Exactly.
I love that concept of I must have been spared for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the 189 people on the plane and the 3,000 people in the tower would love to hear the reason why you were fucking spared to go on and bang another 22-year-old hostess
exactly
at the Holiday Inn.
I'm sure there were plenty of people on that plane who are much more, you know.
They had kids.
Yeah, exactly.
They had life that had a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Because like that is a, you know, yeah. It's narcissistic to think that
you're here for a purpose.
Yeah.
And what about the politics of the show? Is that important to Family Guy, to all these shows? I mean, they all have a political element to them.
I don't think it's as important as other people make it. You know what I mean? We're just trying to tell how we feel about a lot of things. And like Seth says, we're an equal opportunity offender.
Religion is another one that, of course, you know, I love it. You know, of course I'm going to love it, that the show is often making fun of religion.
And that's a hard one to sell. I mean, on a network, it's a hard fucking pill for them to swallow.
But when you were over at my show the other day filming that episode, and, you know, I used the word Christy.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then the censors came over and said, you can't say Christy. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I have seen Jesus come down off the cross on this show and try to get laid.
But that's you know, I ironically, the one thing that the oddly enough, and I'm just sort of thinking of this now, the censors at Fox probably have their finger on the pulse of the average American and what they're going to get bent out of shape about more than anyone else at the network. And, you know, every time that their spidey sense has gone up about something, they've been right. That actually was, the censors weren't there. I'm still going to fight that one. So we may win that. But there is, you can't, on a network, you can't take the Lord's name in vain. You can't say Jesus Christ unless it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, and he's right there, and the camera widens, and there he is. He can be.
But you can portray him as an asshole.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
That's what you do.
If you were to make a list of the most influential voices that we've heard in modern atheism, you would probably expect to find the usual suspects, man. The scientists like Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, or Neil deGrasse Tyson. The philosophers like Christopher Hitchens, or perhaps the stand-up comedians like Bill Burr, Ricky Gervais, and the sort, man. You probably wouldn't think of the guy who created a potty-mouthed talking baby and a lovelorn alcoholic space alien. But that's exactly why Seth MacFarlane might be one of the most effective and subversive advocates for our secular worldview in the last 25 years or so. He hasn't written a best-selling book or debated theologians on stage. Instead, he's used the most effective and, I believe, powerful tools at his disposal: animation, satire, and a massive pop culture platform to do something far more clever. Over the last decade or so, he has practically made religious skepticism a default part of the cultural conversation, and he has smuggled it into millions of living rooms under the guise of a cartoonish joke. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to understand MacFarlane's impact, besides the few brilliant videos that you've watched in today's video, you have to go back to the late 1990s, I believe, which was when Family Guy first burst into the scene. This wasn't the Simpsons, which, for all its brilliance, often treated religion with a kind of warm, nebulous spirituality, man. Family Guy was different. It was aggressive, irreverent, and it went for the jugular, man. From the very beginning, MacFarlane used the show as a vehicle to poke fun at the absurdities of religious belief, and he did it with a smirk that suggested he was in on a joke that stuffy institutions just didn't get, man. And he wasn't standing on a soapbox, man. He was leaning against the wall at a party, making a wisecrack that made you laugh fast and think later. Now, to really explain that, let's think about some of the most infamous cutaway gags from his show. Jesus Christ is a recurring character, often portrayed as a petty, slightly insecure roommate of God who's desperate for his Father's approval. Jesus has also been depicted as a celebrity avenger vengeful demon and having everyday human problems like a girlfriend and even making anti-Semitic comments sometimes. And that's not all. God himself is depicted as a bearded, fallible, and often bad-tempered figure who is prone to making mistakes and throwing tantrums left, right, and center. So, besides the few speeches that MacFarlane has made on religion, his TV show is his primary outreach method, and he uses absurdity to highlight absurdity. Now, by taking religious concepts literally and placing them in ridiculous, anachronistic or mundane situations, he exposes the inherent contradictions. He doesn't need to give a lecture on the problem of evil. He can just show God and Jesus having a beer and arguing about who's at fault, because childhood leukemia exists, man. The comedy in this situation does the heavy lifting, making a complex philosophical argument accessible and, most importantly, memorable to most people. And make no mistakes, ladies and gentlemen, for a generation of young viewers like I, growing up in religious households, these jokes were often our first exposure to the idea that it was okay to question, to laugh, and to see religious figures not as sacred icons, but as characters that could be critiqued, man.